My name is Simone Garrett, and I want to tell you about the morning my brother realized the financial audit sitting in front of him was never random. I sat across from Deshaun in a conference room with 2 attorneys, a forensic auditor, and a stack of documents that proved he had been stealing from our family business for 14 months. I remember the exact moment it hit him. His coffee cup froze halfway to his mouth. His eyes moved from the invoices to the bank statements. Then finally to me. That was the moment he understood something important. I already knew everything, and while he had been lying to my face for over a year, I had been quietly building a case against him piece by piece, still showing up to Sunday dinners, still asking about his kids, still passing him the cornbread at family cookouts like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I am from Birmingham, Alabama. I grew up in a house where hard work was not optional. My father, Curtis Garrett, built Garrett Electrical Solutions out of our garage when I was 7 years old. 30 years of 6-day work weeks. 30 years of sweat inside Alabama summers. He built that company with a kind of quiet pride that never asks for attention because it already knows what it's worth. And when my father retired at 64, he handed the company to me. Not to both of us. To me, that decision mattered more than I understood at the time. My brother Deshaun was 4 years older than me and talented in the most dangerous way possible. Talented enough to impress people quickly, but never disciplined enough to build anything lasting. He had tried sales, real estate, even music production for a while. Every new opportunity became his entire personality for 6 months before he lost interest and moved on to something else. But Deshaun was charming. Dangerous kind of charming. The kind that makes people trust him before he's earned it. When I took over Garrett Electrical Solutions, my father asked me to bring him into the company. Maybe responsibility will settle him down, Daddy said. I wanted to believe that too. So I hired Deshaun as operations manager. That decision cost me almost $94,000. At first, things looked good. The business grew fast during my first 2 years running it. We expanded into commercial contracts, hired 6 more crew members, upgraded our equipment, increased revenue by over 30%. I was proud of what we were building, because it felt real, solid, like the kind of thing my father would stand back and smile at without saying much. And because business was growing so quickly, I got busy. Too busy. I focused on contracts, employees, clients, scheduling, expansion. Deshaun handled vendor payments and petty cash operations. On paper, it looked like a reasonable system. It was not a system. It was an opening. And my brother found it fast. I first realized something was wrong on a Wednesday night in March. I was sitting at my kitchen table, reviewing quarterly reports when I noticed a payment for $12,000 to a vendor called Apex Supply Solutions. The name meant nothing to me. That alone bothered me. I pulled the invoice. At first glance, it looked legitimate. Logo, invoice number, itemized materials, delivery charges. But something about it felt off. If you've spent enough years in business, your instincts start catching problems before your brain fully understands them. And mine were screaming. I did not confront Deshaun. I did not ask questions. I simply wrote the vendor name down on a legal pad and kept digging. That was the beginning. For the next 6 weeks, I lived 2 separate lives. During the day, I ran Garrett Electrical Solutions exactly like I always had. I managed crews, closed contracts, handled inspections, smiled through meetings, acted normal. At night, I became someone else. Every evening, I sat at my kitchen table with bank statements, invoices, transaction histories, vendor records, and a yellow legal pad. Sometimes until 2 in the morning. Sometimes later. I stopped watching television, stopped answering casual phone calls. I was hunting. And the deeper I looked, the uglier it got. Apex Supply Solutions did not exist. Not in Alabama. Not in Georgia. Not anywhere. The address connected to the invoices was a UPS store in Hoover. The phone number traced back to a Google Voice account. The invoices themselves had been created using a free online template I found in less than 20 minutes. That part made me furious. Not just because he stole from me, because he thought I was too distracted to notice. The first payment was $12,000 in March, then $8,500 in April, $14,000 in May, $11,000 in June. Then the pattern changed. Smaller amounts started appearing, a few $100s here, a few hundred there, numbers small enough to avoid attention. small enough to disappear inside normal operating expenses. It was calculated, intentional, patient, and by the time I finished tracing everything across 14 months, the total sat just under $94,000. $94,000, stolen from the company my father built with his bare hands. But that still was not the moment that hurt the most. The moment that hurt the most was the car. I found it on a Saturday afternoon while sitting with my girlfriend Renata, who worked in banking compliance and understood financial tracing better than anybody. I knew. We were cross-checking account activity over sweet tea when she suddenly looked at me and said, "Simone, look at this." Then I saw it, a white Porsche Cayenne, 2023 model, $78,000, paid in cash, purchased the exact same month the fake vendor payments began. I just stared at the screen for a while, because suddenly every uncomfortable feeling I had ignored over the previous year started rearranging itself into clarity. The designer watches, the expensive dinners, the constant bragging, the vacations. Deshaun had not suddenly become successful. He had been stealing from me, from us, from our father's legacy. And the worst part? He had sat beside me at Daddy's funeral while doing it. That realization broke something inside me. People think anger is the hardest part of betrayal. It's not. The hardest part is grief, because this was my brother, my blood, the man who helped carry our father's casket, the man who hugged me outside the funeral home and promised me we would protect the business together. I believed him, completely. And for 4 straight days after uncovering everything, I barely slept. I walked around with this pressure sitting inside my chest like concrete. One moment I wanted to scream at him. The next moment I wanted this entire thing to somehow not be true. But facts do not care what you wish was true. So on day 5, I stopped grieving and started planning. First I called an attorney. Then I hired a forensic accounting firm. I gave them every document I had, collected and explained exactly what I needed, quietly, carefully, legally. We mapped out the audit process, step by step, how to gather records without alerting him, how to preserve evidence, how to make the review appear completely routine. I wanted 0 warning, because the second Deshaun suspected I knew something, he would start covering tracks, and I needed the truth untouched. So I scheduled the audit for a Thursday morning. The day before, I mentioned it casually to him in the office. "Financial review tomorrow," I said. "Routine stuff." He barely looked up from his phone. "Cool," he said. "Cool." That word still makes me angry. Because while I was sitting there carrying the weight of everything he had done, he genuinely believed he was smarter than me, smarter than the system, smarter than consequences. Thursday morning arrived gray and humid like most Alabama mornings do before rain. Deshaun walked into the conference room carrying a coffee cup and wearing the kind of relaxed expression people have when they think life is under control. Then he saw the auditor, then the attorneys, and then he saw me. Really saw me. The forensic auditor slid the first document across the table, the Apex Supply Solutions invoice from March. Deshaun's expression changed immediately, but he tried to hide it. His shoulders tightened. His jaw locked for half a second before he forced himself still again. The auditor placed down the bank records next, then the account tracing documents, then the dealership purchase agreement for the Porsche Cayenne. Silence. Real silence. The kind that feels heavy in the air. Deshaun's coffee stopped halfway to his mouth. And for the first time since I had known him, my brother looked scared. I folded my hands together on the table and looked directly at him. Not angry, not emotional, just calm. "I'm going to need you to explain these to me," I said. "Take your time." But he couldn't. That was the thing. A lie sounds strong right up until evidence enters the room. His eyes moved across the paperwork, like he was searching for an exit hidden somewhere, between the pages. He opened his mouth once, closed it again, looked at the attorneys, looked back at me. Then came the excuses. "It's not what you think. I was going to pay it back. I can explain." Every sentence sounded weaker than the one before it. The attorney beside me slid a second folder across the table. Inside were 14 months of transaction histories, account transfers, vendor records, and purchase documents tied directly to him. That was the moment the fight left his face. Because he finally understood this was never a suspicion. This was a case. And sitting there across from him, watching panic slowly replace arrogance. I realized something unexpected. I was not looking at my big brother anymore. I was looking at a man who had gambled his entire relationship with his family because he thought nobody would ever check the books. He thought being busy made me blind. He thought kindness made me weak. He thought family guaranteed forgiveness. He was wrong. Because the man who spent 14 months stealing from the company our father built finally learned something too late. I inherited more from Curtis Garrett than just the business.